Dis maandag aand, dis Perspektief aand. Goeienaand en baie welkom. Bedrog en korrupsie hou katastrofiese gevolge in vir goeie regering en behoorlike finansiële bestuur in Suid-Afrika. Dit was ook aan die boodskap van die waarnemende rekenmeester-generaal Zanele Mthonyelwa by die Instituut vir Interne Ouditeurs se jaarlikse openbare sektorforum wat in Johannesburg begin het. Met ouditeursfirmas wat die afgelope tyd die wind van voor gekry het, is daar verseker baie om oor te besin tydens hierdie tweedaagse byeenkoms. Onder meer die onthullings by die Sonderkommissie van ondersoek na staatskaping, asook die rol wat interne ouditeurs by van die klagtes van bedrog en korrupsie gespeel het. Nou, die uitvoerende hoof van die Instituut vir Interne Ouditeurs van Suid-Afrika, Dr. Claudelle von Eck, is, of liewer sy sê die land en die auditeursberoep was die afgelope 2 jaar in taamlike chaos gedompel en sy is hier by my in die ateljee. Claudelle, baie dankie. En baie welkom. Is lekker om jou in die ateljee te hê. So, you said it yourself, it's chaos. Auditors and auditing firms are under suspicion. What is going on? Why is this the case? I'm thinking of KPMG to start with. What has happened?
Look, firstly, I need to say that there is a distinction between internal audit and external audit, and the KPMG matter was an external audit matter.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's important for us to be clear on that. And secondly, I think it is also important as us, as South Africans, that we don't see ourselves just in isolation. What I think has happened here is a global issue. We need to look at where it is that we need to self-correct. And a lot of things I think are happening that I think are positive. So if I look at KPMG in particular, for example, changes within the governance structures, for example, some of the things that we're seeing are new, unprecedented, which I think would be a blueprint for the rest of the world to look at. So the positive for me is that in South Africa, we're not sweeping things under the carpet. We are talking about them, and we are bringing measures into place to correct. And I think that we would be able to show the world how it can be done, because elsewhere it's not necessarily better. I think people are just sweeping things under the carpet.
That's very true, because everything is coming out and everybody is talking about it, and we can actually sit here in a studio and we can say people are corrupt. So the theme for this year is, the forum is poised for the future. And there is a lot of emphasis on ethics and ethical courage. Your theme, or your talk, is going to be on ethical intelligence, or building ethical intelligence, and also ethical courage. So yes, how is that going to be done?
Look, for me, ethics, intelligence, and I see it in 2 dimensions, at the level of the individual and the level of the organization. And what it basically means is your ability to see ethical implications in your actions, your decisions. More often than not, part of the problem that we have is that we see ethics only in terms of fraud and corruption. And it's so much broader than that. Too often we find situations where people ask the question, what did I do wrong? And they genuinely don't know what they have done wrong, and that is because they have a very low level of ethics intelligence. So what we need to do is to build that. In terms of our structure in society, our value system is not what it used to be, and we need to do a lot of rebuilding. So you don't want to go into a rules-based approach in society, in our organizations. What you want is a values-based approach, but you do want individuals to be able to have the conversation within themselves, but also within the organization. What we are doing now, the decision that we're making now, what are the ethical implications? And how do we deal with, how do we navigate through the ethical dilemmas? Because nothing is straightforward.
And how will that be done?
So in terms of the building the ethical, so it starts with training people. It starts with ethical intelligence, starts with awareness. So it is, the more you train people, the more they become aware, and the more they can then respond appropriately. Where internal auditors are concerned, because of the nature of what they do, they're in a unique position where they can influence. So they're not the decision makers in the organization, but through their recommendations, they can start to influence the thinking within the organization, because you do want to see a shift, and in particular at leadership level, because your ethical culture in the organization is actually a leadership issue, right? It starts with the tone at the top, but also the example that is being set.
But then the Accountant General also says, or said this morning, that fraud and corruption are two of the biggest dangers to the industry going forward.
Yes.
So, first of all, you're going to be looking at ethical intelligence, but you also have to get rid of corruption and fraud. And how will that be done?
Absolutely. To look at it from the internal audit perspective, so internal auditors, at the end of the day, are not the ones who can take the action. They're the ones who bring the findings to the leadership. Where we do need to start to have more of a conversation around is the strength of the audit committees, because the internal audit reports functionally to the audit committee. What we are finding more often than not is the reports that are coming through from our members is the audit committee is not strong enough, or they may be part of the problem in terms of not responding. So we need to focus more on that side as well, you know, so that where action needs to be taken, that the leadership take action. Internal audit can highlight, internal audit can blow the whistle, but the fixing needs to be done by the leadership.
So other challenges apparently are technology and scarcity of resources.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Right, so from a technology perspective, a great challenge for South Africa is we live in 3 dimensions simultaneously. Right? So the one dimension is dealing with the past and the rectifying of the past. The other dimension is the present and making sure that we're dealing with staying on top of what is happening in the world. And then the other is looking into the future and getting ourselves into a state of readiness for the future. So if you bring that into the context of internal audit where technology is concerned, artificial intelligence, for example, is going to start to take over the operational parts of internal audit, which is very good, because where you want internal audit is at the strategic level, so that they can start to make a real contribution, a valuable contribution to the organization. So what we're saying to internal auditors is you need to look at technology, start to embrace technology, look at your organizations and see to what degree your organization is starting to embrace technology. Resources, if one looks at our corporate governance index, which we run every year, what is coming through very, very clearly, that the biggest resource where we have an issue in South Africa, not surprisingly, human resources. It's a skills issue. So a lot of work that needs to be done from that side. And from the Institute's perspective, we've built a lot. We've done quite a bit. We've built occupational qualifications so that our members and internal auditors broadly can start to build the competence, the skill that they need so that they can do their jobs effectively.
Because these are some of the topics that you're going to be discussing: reducing unemployment, improvement in service delivery, and then also ensuring fiscal discipline, promoting ethical leadership, and reducing the gap between rich and poor.
Yes.
And you know what, I always think it's wonderful to talk about it, and it's wonderful to sit in the studio and we discuss it, and it sounds fantastic and beautiful. But to actually go out there and to do the job,
Yes.
I think that's very difficult.
Yes, it is. But it is important for us, as the Institute, we see it as our obligation to ensure that our members understand their contribution to where the country is going. So the public sector is the part of society that builds the structure, the infrastructure on which the economy is built. So internal auditors in the public sector, the more skilled they are, the better they're able to give insight within their organizations and foresight, places the organization in a better position to do what they're supposed to do. And the ripple effect of that is those outcomes. So what we want for internal auditors is that they don't just take a tick box approach in the auditing, but they think strategically about the outcomes that we're trying to achieve through these institutions, and then take a step back in terms of my mandate within this organization. How do I make sure that I do my job as I should be doing my job, and make sure that I push where I need to push, so that the organisation can play its role in society.
People complain. People say, we've got these commissions of inquiry. Shocking revelations come to light. People are accused of wrongdoing, and then nothing happens. What is your answer to that?
Look, that is a significant problem that we do have in South Africa. And here, of course, one does talk about whether the leadership has the political will to make the difference. As professional bodies, so not just the Institute of Internal Auditors, but across the board, our responsibility is holding our members accountable in that context. So if any of our members are found to have been implicated, and there's evidence that they have done something wrong and they breach our code of ethics, we would then investigate, and if they found guilty, then we would take action against them. What we've recently done as a group of professional bodies in the governance sector is we've signed a memorandum of understanding, because what we've started to realize is professional bodies, especially those of us in the governance sphere, we've got to work together. We can't work in silos, because sometimes you have individuals as members of multiple professional bodies, or they just hop from the one professional body to the other. And as professional bodies working together and talking more with each other, it becomes a lot more difficult for professionals to get through the loopholes.
And are professional bodies willing to work with you? Have you had conversations with them? Is everybody willing to work together to solve this?
Absolutely. We're all realizing that we're sitting with the same kind of problems, and that is the societal context within which we find ourselves. Our realities have shifted, and with one voice I can say, with all the professional bodies that we interact with, everybody's in the same boat, and everybody's on the same page. We must work together. At the end of the day, as South Africans, we must save our country together.
And why should we believe you that what you're saying is really going to be happening out there? Why should people believe that? Because people would like to believe it.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, I think that it is about all of us as South Africans, because although there has been a significant spotlight on the auditing profession, the apportionment of blame is not necessarily all fair, right? So with all the things that we've seen boiling to the surface, directors are implicated, audit committee members. So all of us need to step back and say, what are we going to do to make things right? As professional bodies, we play our role, but we need the broader society to help us as well. So, for example, the Institute of Internal Auditors is not a regulatory body. We're not a self-regulatory body. You don't have to be a member of the Institute to practice as an internal auditor. So the public must ask the question, are you a member? Who holds you accountable?
Thank you so much for coming in. Lovely chatting to you. Dit was die uitvoerende hoof van die Instituut vir Interne Ouditeurs van Suid-Afrika, Dr. Claudelle von Eck. Bly ingeskakel, hierna praat ons oor werkskepping en vaardigheidsontwikkeling onder jong mense.